Right, so I'm just going to try and check the pushrod crush to make sure that the pushrods are sealing, because they need to be crushed down to work. So you've got these, we've got these seals. Now these are called X-ring seal, because you can see there's like a, they're like a C shape. There's a little ridge on either edge, as opposed to the standard white seals. Well, they have got a slight edge, actually. They are slight, but they're not. Certainly one edge seems to be higher than the other. I never really noticed before on these white seals, but anyway, I'm sure that's not the case on these X-ring seals. So I always use these uprated X-ring seals, or well, they've got another name I can't remember. But the standard gasket set comes with these white seals. So I always use the uprated black ones. Just that much less chance of leaking. So then what I've done is I have loosely, but not sealed on, I've put a metal cup on. The washers are on. The gasket's on. Then I've just on this tappet, I've put the metal cup on, followed by the bottom X-ring. Then I have put the top X-ring on the pushrod tube. At this point, it's worth noting that there are many different styles of pushrod tube that were made for triples, and hopefully about here I will post a picture to show the different ones that were used, which provided by Warren Hodder, put on the internet recently. The thing about the different tubes is that the actual length, the sort of crush length, if you like, from seal to seal is exactly the same on all the tubes. What's different is this top, the top piece of the tube, which goes up inside the rocker boxes. I'm not sure why they lengthened those. I really don't know. But I don't know. All I can say is the actual length of the pushrod tubes in terms of how they seal is exactly the same on each tube. It's just this top bit tends to get longer as they went on, which is another anomaly of this engine, because I believe this is a 75 engine. It's got the late domed T160 tappets, but this, as far as I know, is quite an early pushrod tube, because they're the shortest. So who knows? Anyway. So then I've fed the pushrod tube down through the rocker box to sit on top of that seal, and I've then loosely fitted a just put it on there, the rocker box gasket, and then I'm doing this one-handed, so I'll go wrong, of course, but I'll then put the rocker box, there we go, just going to put it on the loosely on there. There's no push rods in, so there's no pressure. So then I can see from that what is the crush gap. So that, in other words, the gap between the top of the cylinder head with the gasket on and the bottom of the rocker box. So I think I've measured that, and I think that's about 50 thou. Okay, so I think that is, you have to measure it at the back, not the front, because the front's just they touch. So you need to come around the back of the rocker box to make that measurement. So I think that's about 50,000-ish, 50 to 60,000 crush, I would say. If you try and measure at the front, you'll always get a false reading, because they, they can come and they touch very easily at the front. So you need to measure at the back. But so I think that's a very good crush. So. Now, what I guess, if I was going to be absolutely, what you can do is you can go around and measure each one in turn, because of course it depends how well the tappet block was fitted to the cylinders, because of course if it's not been fully fitted, the actual height of the tappet blocks on all four could be different. But you know, I'm happy that they're okay. I'm happy that the crusher's okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and now fit the pushrod tubes, the push rods, and then the rocker boxes to the barrels. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take off this. I've only temporarily put it on. I'm going to take it back off, put some well seal on it. I'm going to get all the metal cups. Okay, oops, there they are. Come out. I'll get the rest of the metal cups. We'll put well seal on those as well, because I decided to use well seal all the way around. I'll use well seal on the back of the cups, which go on top of the little gasket, and then I'll put some well seal inside the cups. We'll put them on, and then we'll put the X-ring seals on over the tappet blocks, which are already pre-well sealed, and they'll sit on the little cups. Then we'll get the pushrod tubes, and I will put some well seal just on the bottom face of the pushrod tube. Then we'll put some well seal on this top edge of the pushrod tube, and then we'll feed them back through. Then we'll get the rocker boxes, and I'll put some well seal on this is the mating, the face. Right, so we've got kind of an orgy of well seal. We've got the rocker boxes, and they've got obviously well seal around where the gasket is going to go, but also where the top of the push rods tubes are going to go. We've got the push rod tubes and the well seal at the bottom, and also around the top. We've got the cups that the seals go in. They've got well seal on the bottom and also well seal on the bottom of the cup. We've got the tappet blocks already well sealed. Then we've got the top of the cylinder head, and that's all well sealed where the gasket's going to go for the rocker boxes. Yeah, and the other rocker box, that's all got well seal on as well. So it's not like well seal everywhere. A couple of things then before we carry on. Yeah, so on a Trident, the push rod tubes go into the rocker boxes, not into the cylinder head. On a lot of twins, the tubes go into the cylinder head, and then the rocker boxes like just sit on top. But on a Trident, they actually go into the bottom of the rocker boxes. The other thing I meant to mention before was with the dowels in the that go down through the oil drain holes. I once experimented with putting little neoprene O-rings over the top of those dowels to create a perfect seal. So you know, when the head went down, it crushed those neoprene rubbers and created a perfect seal. But then I later took the head off and found out that the seals had indeed just sort of burnt. You know, they'd melted and they were hard, and you know, like rubber goes when it's burnt. They weren't leaking, but obviously that it wasn't a great idea. The experiment failed. And to be honest, I find that, you know, if you do get things right, those dowels don't leak anyway. And hopefully, if we get things right, then they don't leak from the pushrod tubes either. But I've not had one leak yet. Touch wood. But you know, you just have to, you know, sometimes there's no rhyme or reason to these things, and you do everything right, and yet they still leak or whatever. But anyway, that's everything prepped. So we're going to put the pushrod. We're going to put the cups on. Then we're going to put the seals on around the tappet blocks. Then we are going to put the pushrod tubes in, and we're going to put the seals around the top of the pushrod tubes. Then we're going to put the actual push rods in down through the pushrod tubes, and then we should be ready to actually put the rocker boxes on the cylinder head. We've made sure that we've slackened off all the adjusters, are fully slackened off, because we don't want to be pushing down valves and that at the same time, if we can avoid it. Right, well, I think everything's ready, so we'll actually start, now we've done all the well seal, we'll actually start the assembly in that order. And so there we have everything assembled. Washer, and cup, then seal inside the cup, and then the pushrod tube. On top of the pushrod tube is the other seal. We put the pushrods down and put those in first to make sure they're seated on the tablets at the bottom, and then put the pushrod tubes over them. And then I always mark. There's this tappet's got the double sort of tappets in, so I always mark the outer pushrod, because it's very easy for them to get sort of like crossed over, and then you get a bit confused as to which one's which. So I always mark the outside one, so when I'm putting the rockers on, I know that that's the outside one. Okay, we're ready to put the rockers on now. The inspection caps are moved off the back, and that's where the rockers go on onto the pushrod tubes, and that's so they're off, so we can see that we can engage them properly. I put some assembly lube on all the tips of the pushrod tubes, and I'll be putting some assembly lube in the cups here again before we put the rockers on. Okay, so time to actually put the rocker boxes on. Right, I've put the rocker boxes in place, and just so I've got them located just with the four corner rocker box bolts, just to make sure everything's in line and so on. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fit the 3 Allen screws that go in the front lip of either rocker box, so these Allen screws, and underneath the Allen screws are these little aluminium sort of crush washers, yeah, and so it's vital to remember to put those in. They go like in there, and then the Allen screw goes on top. And what I'm going to do is I'm just a well seal person, so I'm going to put some well seal in there on the washers, and then I'm also going to put some well seal on the threads of these Allen screws, because this is another place where it can leak. You know, it's a natural place for the oil to pool here, and it pools around the top of those Allen screws, and it can seep down. It can actually, you know, go through the threads and come out. So that's the last thing we want to do. So that's why we have to make sure these crush washers are in place, and that's also why I'm going to put well seal on the threads. I did used to use Loctite. The only thing about that is, you know, from time to time you want to tighten things up, and then obviously you break the Loctite, which is dried. So well seal, of course, is non-hardening, so if you tighten them up later, it's still as effective as it was, because it doesn't harden, so moving it slightly is fine. Okay, I'm going to put some well seal on, and then we'll loosely fit these 3 Allen screws in the either side of the rocker boxes. Okay, so we're getting ready to tighten down the cylinder head studs, and the washing machine is just on spin, just in case you were wondering what's going on in the background. I haven't heard the washing machine for a while. I thought you'd be missing that. Right, okay, so what we got to do, we're going to tighten these down. They go down to 18 foot-pounds, that's their torque. And basically you tighten them up from the inside outwards. You do like an X. So this center one, and across to that center one, and that center one, then to that center one. So you do all the 4 centers first, then that one, and that one, and that one, and that one. I think that's right. Yeah, and then I think the 4 out of that one, that one, that one, and that one. Those are the, is it 10, is it 12 in fact, yeah, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, yeah, 12. So we'll be tightening those up, and we'll be tightening them up progressively So not doing them, you know, down to 18 all at once. We'll just be tightening them up slowly, bit by bit. And as we do that, I'll also be tightening down these Allen screws, and I'll also be tightening down the 7/16 rocker bolts. These are just rocker bolts. They don't go down through the head, but I don't want to be warping the rocker boxes, so I'll be tightening those down at the same time. I've got all the tappets on maximum adjustment, so there are actually two tappets that have actually got some pressure on them, even on minimum adjustment. But that's as best I can do. So obviously, I really don't want to be putting pressure on the rocker boxes and that too much as I tighten things down. So I've slackened them all off as best I can. Right, we're going to set the torque wrench to 18 and start tightening them down bit by bit and tightening the other nuts down at the same time. So let's go on with that. Okay, we'll start tightening them down. Start with this one. Go across to the centre. Across back to the centre. And so that's the 4 central ones. Started tightening them down. Across to this one. Then to this one, which is the sort of medium outer. I'm just tightening until they've got a bit of tension. I've just tightened them down hand tight so far, finger tight. Okay, I'm just getting a bit of tension. Then these outer studs are, they're all 1/2 inch. These are 9/16, so I'll just change the spanner. The socket even. Ow. Ooh, I've cut my finger recently and it's still very sensitive. There we go. I've just got a little bit of tension. Got a little bit of tension on all the head. I'm just going to tighten the Allen screws down a little bit. And then I'm just going to give the rocker corners a bit. I think I've already done that. Yeah, they've actually already got a bit of tension on. Right, so then just repeat the whole thing again. Oops, so daisy. Let's go back to the 1/2 inch. That's lost all its tension now. There we go. So 9/16 again. And so we keep going. I'll keep going and keep going until you get a click, which means that we're up to torque. These are torqued down to 18 foot-pounds. I'm actually going to torque them down to 20 for the simple reason that we're using a composite gasket, and that really does loosen up very quickly. If I was using a copper gasket, then I would just do them down to 18 because the torque doesn't move that much. But with a composite, as soon as you start the engine, it really does loosen everything up. So I'm going to put them down to 20 20 because I know that within a few seconds of the engine starting, they'll loosen up to, they'll go down to 15, 16, and they'll need tightening back up again. So I've torqued them all down now, and so just side click. There we go. They're all done. They're all on click. Just going to show you they're all just on click. So they're all torqued down, in my case, to 20 because of the composite gasket, and I've tightened up the rocker box corners, and I've tightened up the 3 Allen screws in either rocker box lip. These do have a torque setting, but to be honest, I just tend to tighten them up a bit without overdoing them. Same for these Allen screws. Just one thing I don't know if I mentioned before, but you do want to put in the cylinder head studs dry. You don't want to lubricate them, maybe just a touch of grease, but certainly not oil or anything. Again, I think you get a false reading. I'm just trying to work it out, but I know you're supposed to put them in dry, and that's your torque setting. I think, yeah, they'll slip that bit more and maybe over tighten, I think, if you got oil in. Is that right? I think so, but yeah, it should be put in dry, or at least, virtually dry. Okay, so it's all tightened up, and so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to turn the engine over a bit, just check everything's all okay, and then we're ready to do the valve timing, the engine timing, which I've been looking forward to so much. Right, okay, I'll just turn the engine over and just check. I'll just check that everything's okay. I'll just screw the tappets down a bit because we don't want them jumping out of their the push rods. I don't know if I said before, I'm just going to sort of move the camera a bit, but obviously there's inspection holes, let's have a look, in the back of the rockers, and that's what you use to locate the rockers. If we can see there, we can see the rockers in the back of the, let's have a look. So you can probably see that. You can probably just about see it. Okay, so there you can locate the push rods on the